Eligibility, areas looked at during the assessment of needs. Hello, my name is Judith and I work for Access Social Care. When you have an assessment to see what care and support you might need, a number of areas of things we either need or might like to be able to do in our lives are looked at. For example, looking after our personal hygiene and being able to take part in work, education or volunteering. For the assessment, these are referred to as outcomes. When looking at each outcome, the assessment will need to consider if you have any difficulties and if so, what kind of support might help. In this video, I'm firstly going to go through all the different outcomes that must be looked at during your assessment to give you a good understanding of what is covered. I've then made a second video which looks at how the information collected during your assessment is used to decide if you have what are called eligible needs. That is, needs for which the local authority has duty to arrange care and support for you. I should note here that when looking at the need for support for people who are deafblind, a specialist assessment must be undertaken by a specialist assessor with the necessary knowledge, training and expertise to be able to effectively assess the person's needs. In addition to the outcomes below, the specialist assessor will also need to consider the following areas to determine whether the person has any needs for support in relation to these. That is, communication, one-to-one human contact, social interaction and emotional well-being, support with mobility, assistive technology and rehabilitation. If you would like more information about specialist assessments for people who are deafblind, we have a video available on which includes looking at when a person with both a hearing impairment and a sight impairment should be given a specialist assessment, even if they do not consider themselves to be deafblind. The outcomes I'm now going to discuss must be looked at for all assessments, whether specialist or not. There are 10 different areas of our lives that are looked at during the assessment. These are called outcomes. All local authorities use the same 10 outcomes when assessing what help and support may be needed, and each of the 10 outcomes must be considered during each assessment. I think it might be helpful for me to briefly tell you the name of each outcome and give you a bit of an explanation of what sort of things it can cover, so you can think about how this relates to any difficulties you may have in managing without support and what support you might need. The first outcome is managing and maintaining nutrition. This looks at whether you might need any help or support with being able to get the food and drink you need, considering all the different parts of this. This includes shopping for the food and drink, preparing adequate meals and drinks, making sure you eat and drink regularly, physically consuming and swallowing the food and drinks, and being able to make appropriate diet choices for your needs. Secondly, we have maintaining personal hygiene. For this, it needs to be considered whether you have any difficulty in washing yourself or with washing your clothes. It should look at whether you have any physical difficulties with washing any parts of yourself, whether you need any encouragement or support to help you to wash regularly and safely, and whether you have any difficulty being able to do your laundry, both buying the cleaning products needed and operating the washing machine. Next, there is managing toilet needs. This looks at any difficulty you may have with getting to and using a toilet in time, and it looks at this both for the daytime and the nighttime. The next outcome is being appropriately clothed. This looks at whether you have any difficulty in getting dressed and whether you could change your clothes when needed. It looks at whether you can choose and put on appropriate clothing for the activity and the weather. So if you need to wear a specific type of clothing for an activity such as work, the assessment needs to look at whether you can select the right clothes and also whether you can put them on. For example, can you do up zips and can you put on a tie if you need to wear formal clothes? It should be considered whether you can recognise when your clothes have become dirty and need to be changed. It should look at whether you're able to buy new clothes when needed to make sure you can be appropriately dressed. The fifth outcome is being able to make use of the home safely. This is looking at all aspects of safety when you're at home on your own, such as getting into your home, accessing the different areas of your home safely, and keeping yourself safe at home, such as when using home appliances like the cooker. It includes getting up and down any stairs, inside or outside your home, keeping access doors locked, using the kitchen and bathroom safely, and knowing how to keep yourself safe in an emergency, such as getting out of the house in the event of a fire. The sixth outcome is maintaining a habitable home environment. This looks at being able to keep your home sufficiently clean and well maintained, such as getting any necessary repairs, checks or work done to be a safe environment to live in. It also includes keeping access to things such as your water, electricity and gas, including being able to keep your home at a warm enough temperature and paying the bills related to your home. The seventh outcome is developing and maintaining family or other personal relationships. This is about making sure you are able to keep up the relationships that are important to you and that you're able to make new ones if you want to. This looks at relationships such as family, friends, and romantic relationships. During the assessment, it should be checked whether you have any difficulty keeping in contact or meeting up with the people you care about, such as difficulty using a phone, getting to a meeting place, or successfully interacting with people without having the support to do so. It should also be considered whether you feel at all lonely or isolated, and whether you have any difficulty being able to meet new people and to create new relationships. The eighth outcome is accessing and engaging in work, training, education or volunteering. If you're already doing any of these things, it is looking at any difficulty you have doing so without support. It's also about checking if you would like to be able to do any of these things and checking any difficulty you would have in finding out about opportunities and any difficulty you would have in making the arrangements and taking part. The ninth outcome is making use of necessary facilities or services in the local community, including public transport and recreational facilities or services. This is about looking at whether you're able to get into and around your local community on your own, including using public transport, going into shops, going to medical appointments, and accessing leisure and recreational facilities such as community groups, activity groups, parks, the library, and local sports facilities. It should be considered as to whether you may need physical support with getting around or with your personal care whilst out, and whether you need someone with you for encouragement or support, or to help ensure that you don't get lost and that you keep safe. It should also look at whether you need private transport arrangements to be made if you have any significant difficulty using public transport for any reason. If you're not already accessing your local community, it should look at whether or not you would like to, and if so, what sorts of things you would like to do and what support you would need. The 10th and final outcome is carrying out any caring responsibilities you have for a child. This looks at any parenting or any other caring responsibilities you have for a child, which might be as a parent, a step-parent, a guardian, or a grandparent. This should look at any help you need, including to be able to do things such as doing the school run. Remember, it should consider any difficulty you would have carrying out your caring responsibilities without support. So even if you already have help, you should talk about this with your assessor. That is all the outcomes that need to be looked at during your assessment. Please watch my second video to find out about how each outcome should be considered, and then how it's decided from all of the information collected during the assessment whether the local authority must provide you with support. Thank you for listening.